Hello again, everybody. It's Friday forecast time. Nebraska, the biggest test of the season so far against second-ranked Michigan. Sean, let's first talk about last week, Louisiana Tech. A better finish than start, but the Huskers did find ways to get it done.
Yeah, I think Nebraska has kind of found the formula of who and what they want to be, Andy. They want to run the football with physicality, with tight ends and fullbacks downhill, about 40-plus runs a game. They're going to throw it about 20 times a game. Then on the flip side, defensively, they want to control the line of scrimmage, limit you on your early down runs, and force you into third downs. And Nebraska's defense did a great job getting off the field in third downs. Louisiana Tech faced a lot of third and longs as well.
It's going to be a tough test for Nebraska. Anthony Grant, they better wrap him in bubble wrap this week, and because he's going to take some shots. Michigan has got a great defense, and then at quarterback, it's interesting to hear Matt Rule talk about it Monday. It's like, this is not gamesmanship about Harburg versus Sims. They roughly do the same things. Obviously, Harburg just takes care of the ball better, at least through 4 games.
Yeah, you look at the first 4 games, and they're really similar in a lot of respects. The difference was the turnovers. Even the Colorado game, before the barrage of turnovers, it was going to be a 0-0, 3-0 type game at the half, exactly almost like what we had seen against Northern Illinois and against Louisiana Tech the last 2 weeks. So Nebraska knows how they want to play, but if you turn it over, that style does not work, and that has been the difference. The question is the competition level. What will it be like now this week, and the availability of both quarterbacks?
Yeah, Heinrich Harburg, the first Husker quarterback to win his first 2 starts since Tommy Armstrong did it 10 years ago. Let's talk Michigan now. Obviously, it all starts with their quarterback, J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, J.J. McCarthy is probably the best quarterback in the Big Ten, and I'm not even sure. I mean, you can make a case for Penn State's guy, and obviously Maryland's got a good quarterback, but McCarthy is the reason why Michigan is ranked number 2 in the country, just the way he manages things. You've heard Jim Harbaugh say he thinks he could be the best quarterback in Michigan history when it's all said and done, and maybe a first-round draft pick. So we'll see. But he's a dual-threat guy that plays in a pro-style system, which that's scary if they get their running game going, which we know they're capable of. I mean, put this in perspective. They have 7 offensive linemen right now that are on the Senior Bowl watch list. You only play 5, by the way,
right,
Andy.
Time, right? Yeah, no question about it. J.J. McCarthy completes about 80% of his passes. I remember at Big Ten football media days in Indianapolis, Jim Harbaugh likened him to Patrick Mahomes. We'll see how that plays out. But you mentioned the running game. Blake Corum, obviously, he's an All-American, 7th in the Heisman voting. Last year, he's already has 8 touchdowns in 4 games.
Yeah, he's been slower in terms of his yards, but I think Michigan's had a schedule that's allowed them to manage their roster. They've been very, very, slow to build things up, but I think that's by design. You look at the opponents they've played. They've been really 20-plus point favorites, if not 28-plus point favorites in all 4 of these games they've played. Rutgers was probably, on paper, the tightest matchup they faced, but it's been a beautiful schedule for them to kind of develop and build a team. And then Jim Harbaugh was out for 3 weeks, so it allowed other coaches opportunities to be a head coach. And now the real season begins for them as Michigan's going to face this game, obviously the Penn State game. The Michigan State game is always a big game every year for them, and obviously the end of the year, that could potentially be an undefeated matchup. So this is a team that's eyeing that 3rd consecutive trip to the college football playoff.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned their schedule. East Carolina, UNLV, and Bowling Green, all at home. Those were their non-conference games. And then they open with Rutgers. They play here at Nebraska, and then at Minnesota, and then home against Indiana, then at Michigan State before having Purdue at home. I mean, that's a pretty manageable schedule before finishing it up with at Penn State, at Maryland, and then the big one against Ohio State.
Yeah, it sets up for Fox. They get Deion Sanders in the early months, preserve Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State for the late months, and get all the ratings every game. But I think Michigan is a team that, they're building this team to not win in September. They're building this team to be great in November. And this is, I know when you look at games from Michigan, I know they're beat writers, so this is a game that, scares them because this has been tough for them to play in Memorial Stadium. They lost that game here when Denard Robinson got hurt. They easily could have lost a couple of years ago when Adrian fumbled at the last second there on that fumble in the late 4th. It was a tie game. Nebraska was driving to potentially win the game.
Yeah, and anything can happen in college football. We've seen it every year. How does Nebraska do it Saturday?
Well, I think they've got to hold on to the football. That's a given. Field position's a given. I think if they're forced to have to drive it 80-plus yards, it's not going to be a really good day for Nebraska. They've got to figure out ways to start past the 35-yard line, put themselves in position, and, man, the field goals could be big. Tristan Alvano, if he gets opportunities, you can't leave points off the board in a game like this.
We will see what happens. The Huskers a 17.5-point home underdog. The game is Saturday against second-ranked Michigan, and it's on Fox at 2:30.